All right, guys, welcome to part 3, the fix on the Nightmare Dodge Durango, man. This Dodge Durango tried to make your boy, the auto electric god, look like the auto electric fool, man. But it couldn't happen, not from no dusty 05 Dodge Durango. We got it taken care of. Y'all stay tuned. You definitely want to, if you're doing anything Dodge, you want to stay to the end of this video, watch the whole thing. I've got a lot of details on the security system. We've got a lot of tools. Big shout out to everybody that's chimed in with suggestions and everything to try to get this thing taken care of. Finally got it. Big thanks to all the members that have donated to the channel. Big news coming. We're gonna have a 12 terabyte of storage, 1 gig connection. We got a lot of software coming for you guys. If you're not in the members area, man, you're missing out. Big stuff is coming. Yeah, so shout out to everybody that have donated to the channel. Your donations at work is coming back to you guys, man. 12 terabytes of data of a lot of stuff. We're gonna fill it up. Everything you guys are gonna need to get the job done is gonna be there. Most importantly, once you see all of this, if you didn't know it, now you're gonna know. And like I say, boys, knowing is half the battle. Don't forget to click that thumbs up buttons, and see you guys on the next one. All right, boys, here we go, part 3 on the Nightmare Dodge Durango 2005. Going over some of the documentation on this model. And important note, the security indicator is standard equipment on all clusters. However, vehicles not equipped with the optional VTSS, the indicator is electronically disabled. The indicator is located near the blah, blah, blah. Okay, so this could be the case on this vehicle, and that's the reason why the indicator does absolutely nothing, no matter what mode is the SKIM is in, or what it's doing, or probably what codes it sends to it, because this vehicle might not have that portion. It might have just been keyless entry. I'm just guessing. I'm kind of surprised if a vehicle from 2005 would not have that, especially being from Dodge, but it's definitely possible because this is documentation from Dodge. Let me show you something else. Okay, more from this same vehicle, and this is under the VTSS features, right? So it says enabling. This is EMIC is the cluster. The security function electronically enabled in order for VTSS to perform as designed. The logic keeps the VTSS function dormant until it is enabled, right? So this could definitely explain why the cluster is behaving the way it is. It could be in this mode. You know, one thing I noticed, I did go in the cluster, and the mileage electronically, what it was reported in the cluster seemed different than what I saw in the cluster. I'm not sure if it was a conversion from kilometers to miles. I didn't give it that much thought. It just made me think when I saw it was that it could be that this cluster came used from a different vehicle. I didn't get anything like that from the customer. I'm gonna find out more details. But basically, from reading this could mean that this vehicle is just not equipped with that level of security. In that case, I might be barking up the wrong tree, right? And I might need to go in the same direction I was going in. And when I first started this diag, if you remember in the beginning of part 1, what I did, I disassembled the PCM location, which is, man, a pain to get to. It's on the passenger side. You have to take the whole wiper system out, basically, to get to it. And it looks like no one has probably been in there for years, so it's not something that someone has swapped out or anything like that. I think I need to go back, because when I got there and I tested from the starter ground relay circuit at that PCM, if you remember, I had the power probe connected to it, and I could ground, or I could see the signal going to or not going to the starter relay. So when I started doing additional testing, it made me lead towards the immobilizer, which brought us all the way here. But maybe the problem is on the PCM side. Now, what I'm thinking about, I kind of find it highly unlikely, because as far as maybe powers and grounds, because maybe the PCM would be behaving different, attempting to start or crank, or and as well throwing out some error codes. I've actually got another PCM coming for this vehicle, so we're going to be able to test, and I can also load different firmware versions onto the PCM. By the way, I got a whole collection of the Dodge calibrations from 1999 all the way to 2020. Pretty much includes all of those vehicles. There might be a couple of things in the newer ones that might be a little short, but everything pretty much. So 20 years of calibrations, 230 gigs available. Just check it out in the description if you're interested. Of course, it's paid. Members, there's a discount price in the members area. Check out the members area. And there's also a couple of years that are already added to the members area. So check out the members area. Check out the link you got for that, and you'll see the details on that. Another thing to add, the front control module that sits right here, it's a little module. It acts as the gateway between the different, the CAN bus. There's the bus is separated, like bus C, which is the more critical stuff, the PCM and things, is on bus C, and bus B is actually where the SKIM is located. Let me show you something. That's what the front control module looks like. Okay, so it sits right there in front of the fuse box. You probably might have seen it and just didn't pay much attention. That's it. That's also like a CAN bus gateway. It also can control certain things. For example, this is CAN bus B, and as you can see, there's our SKIM right there, and that's the high connected right there. And all of this is all bridged, of course, on a white and orange cable. And then it goes to this junction block. And from there, it goes down to A, and which, let me show you A. And here's A. It comes down here. And here's the same white and orange cable. And it goes off to the front control module, right? And this front control module also has a connection to C. So this front control module is a gateway between the different buses. So from here, this continues the B bus, right? So it hits some other modules and things. So here's the airbag module on the passenger side, the radio system, memory mirrors, and stuff like that. Non-important essential things on CAN bus B, right? Just a quick note about that front control module, that it is a gateway in some ways. It bridges the networks together. As you can see here, the DLC, pin 6 and 14, CAN bus high and low, hits directly to the front control module. And then from the front control module, of course, is where you can talk to everything else via CAN, right? The PCM is directly connected also by the SCI interfaces like this to the bus, to the DLC. All right, so here's my next plan of action. I'm going to go to the PCM C1 and test these pins. I should have power there, and then ground on these pins here. It's the same C1, and I know our CAN bus is working. And this is what the PCM looks like. And this connector right here is C1. And this is C3 right here, the white, they call it natural. And this is where the ground signal comes from. I forgot what pin it is, if it's 30 or 38, but it sends that ground signal to the starter relay, right? So we're gonna test our powers and grounds here. And I've already tested this cable going to the starter relay and in part one of the first beginning of the video, and there's no ground signal coming from the PCM. So once we test all this, I'm kind of gonna rule to the PCM as well, guys. So we'll see. All right, here is the circuit for the immobilizer, the SKIM, and we did test these two powers. There's one constant and the other one is ignition, and we tested them with the probe and also test light to confirm that they were strong in part one. And here's the SKIM, and as I was showing you, there's the can be signal, and as you can see, it terminates in the front control module. So that front control module is a gateway basically to bridge the CAN B and CAN C network. Not that I believe the front control module is causing an issue, because I see at this point no type of communication issues. So I don't think it's related to this problem at all. And so it would be plugged in here at 2. So it'll be 2 and 3. So number 2 should be the white and orange, and 3 should be the white. So that's can be right there. Interesting note on this immobilizer code B2205. Here's what happens at it happens at ignition on, right, when it checks. And you can get this code after the PCM should have received the valid key message from the SKIM within 3.5 seconds. It should set that code if, so basically the SKIM sends a valid key message to the PCM. The PCM has to respond with a valid key status to the SKIM within 3.5 seconds. And if that does not happen, then it will set this code. We currently have no codes. So that means that that handshake is happening. So we're past this point, right, for no crank. It's just an important note in the troubleshooting of this system. All right, guys, I've got a test ECM here on the bench. This is not for that vehicle, but I'm basically looking at some of the options. I'm using CDA6, by the way, and I'm going to have a video on this coming out. Basically, I'll be able to look at all of the SKIM data directly at the PCM. So, for example, here's the bytes, the actual bytes for the secret key between the SKIM and the PCM. So I can actually open that. Right here, and it will give me a breakdown of the actual hex values, of course converted to ASCII. So you can look at the key, and I'll be able to dig down deeper into the PCM and see exactly what's going on if need be, but we're gonna see. And I'm using the MicroPod 2. I'll be having this on my site as well, so click the link down in the description, guys. Okay, guys, very good package for you guys. Anybody that's going to be working on anything Dodge, Jeep, Chrysler, you're definitely going to want this, okay? You're going to have to get the MicroPod 2, our version of it. You're going to get CDA6, okay? And we're going to set that up for you remotely. We're going to connect up to your machine through TeamViewer, connect up to it remotely, and you're also going to get the full 230 gig collections of the calibrations, okay? We're also going to have to connect up and modify your MicroPod to get it everything within specs, and you'll be good to go. Definitely, if you want anything to do with Dodge, Jeep, Chryslers, modify the PCMs, disable SKIM, flash them, upgrade, downgrade, whatever. Not even the PCMs, you can do the other modules, everything, man. Click that link in the description, check it out. We've got our initial packages, but in case we run out of stock, we should have some more coming in the next 2 weeks. So check back often if we run out. And let's get on with the video. All right, boys, here we are back at the truck, and the PCM is located here. To get to this thing, man, you got to pull off this, the wipers. It's crazy, and there's a little I don't know, tray that goes here. You got to pull that off, then you can finally get to the PCM. Alternatively, you can remove the battery and try to sneak your hand through there and get under and get to it, but it probably is just going to make more sense to take that off. Anyway, I pulled off C1, which is right here, and here's the connector. I pulled off the back cover so we can see the wires, and the actual OEM pinout is different than the diagram or the I showed you. So we've got 2 grounds at 9 and 18, and then we've got our 2 ignition power feeds, powers, the pink wires right there, that's at 11 and 12, and then we've got power at 29. So we're going to test all those powers with the test light and meter and see, make sure they're battery voltage, and then we're going to test the grounds as well, both ways. So we're just going to verify that it's actually getting to the PCM correctly. All right, the first one I tested is 29, and I've got a connector out, but I'm going to actually connect it in because I want to test this while in circuit connected to the PCM as well, and make sure there's not some kind of excessive draw or something that might pull these circuits down. So as you can see, the test light is connected to ground, battery ground, and we're at 29 to the probe, and we've got strong light, so that is a good connection. Let's connect it up now. plug back in. Still the same. We're going to open the switch, and then we're going to move over to the 2 pink wires there and do the same. Key is on, and everything looks good at 29. We're going to move it now. We're at the first pink wire, and everything is good. We're going to the next one. Now on the second pink wire, we don't have anything. Okay. That could be because I haven't turned the switch. I got to double check that circuit for that second pink wire. Actually, I did try to turn it. I went in there and it still didn't energize the second connector. So we're going to note that and keep going. I'm going to switch over to the grounds now. I moved my test light over to battery positive now. So now that we're hooked up into the first ground, we should get a light if this is strong. And there it is, strong light. So that ground is good. We're going to go to the next ground. Second ground, strong test light, good. So we're going to check that second pink wire now and see what's going on there. All right, guys, looking at the wiring diagram, if you saw that, it goes to fuse 34, which is right here at 10 amp. So maybe the auto electric god is going to be the auto electric fool if it's just the fuse, right? So let's find out. Come on. So should be this one. Got a bright light here, bright light there, and no power at the PCM. Let's see here. Okay, I went and double checked the color. I don't know if you can see that, but it is definitely the pink and green, dark green, and we definitely have no power. And according to the diagram, aftermarket diagram, it should be power at all times here with the key off or on. The key is currently on and we have no power. So obviously that's going to be a problem, and that's probably been the problem the whole time. Yeah, exactly. Anyway, let's find, there's a splice for that. Let's see if I can locate it, if it's somewhere simple. Temporary, what we might do, I might have to just fix back the immobilizer, and this car might actually start. Guys, for S&Gs, I put the immobilizer, the used one, and the key we programmed brand new yesterday on, and I'm going to inject power and try to crank it at the same time, which I can't do with one hand, but I just tried it, and still there's no crank. It's exactly like before, injecting power to that pink and green cable. So I'm going to set back the original immobilizer with the original keys and try that. Okay, that did not work. No codes with the original key, original immobilizer, and I went ahead and put the scanner on the, the test light on the crank fuse. So when I hit start, it should light up, and it does. I got to test to see if that's also making it to the PCM. But we definitely know one of the direct powers, which is stupidly labeled on the diagram that it's from the ignition to off, start, run. It has nothing to do with the ignition. It goes directly to the PCM. So I don't know why it's labeled like that, but it is, and we have no power going to that, making it to the PCM. But the fuse is good, so we're going to check the splice 124. But let me check the other side of this fuse, and it's good. Connected to number 30 right now, and so now we're going to test the crank. So this should be the crank receiving at the PCM. I've connected my test light to ground, so we should get battery voltage and a light when I crank. So here we go. Key off, key on, crank. Nothing. Okay guys, that's the issue. What I did, I couldn't do it with two hands. I hit the injected power while I cranked the switch, and then the PCM did actually ground the starter relay and did try to crank the engine, but I just stopped it. It just bumped the engine. So it looks like there's going to be an issue with the wiring, most likely. I got to double check where that crank circuit comes from, how it comes from the switch here, if there's not an issue I've got going on as well from the switch slash immobilizer. But first thing I'm going to do is hunt down the missing power at the PCM. All right, guys, if you saw the diagram, we've got two problems. One is the power coming from the power distribution fuse 16 that we tested that does work on crank. It lights up, it activates, and it should be sending power to reach to the PCM. It is not reaching to the PCM, so there's going to be a break in that wire from the fuse box to the PCM, and then the power coming from the fuse box down here to have always on power to the PCM is also broken. So that is our problem. So I believe once we solve those two breaks, this car is going to start. So let me hunt down those places. All right, guys, here's what I did to try and do a test. I've back probed on the 16 fuse, which comes output from the ignition switch to energize the starting circuit at the PCM, which we know is broken. So from this, it's not reaching to the PCM. So I back probed the wire, that red wire, it goes across and switches over to this yellow, and then on the black Pearson probe, and we hit the starting circuit to the PCM, which that wire is broken coming from that fuse box over there. And we've got a power on the green and orange wire that we know it's broken, that's supposed to come always, all the time from that fuse box in there. I just jumped it directly to the battery right here. So now the car does start. Battery's low, I need to put a booster on it. It cranks, so let's see if it starts. All right, don't have my big booster, let's see. Start that one. Hey, all right. Let's see. Start, boys. There it is. Shut off though. On. Battery. Let's see. Start. Gas, stall. See that? So that's what's going on right now. Okay, guys, I went ahead and switched over to the immobilizer and the key that I made, and now we've got to start and the car's running. So that most likely is because when I went ahead and synced up this immobilizer, secret is synced to the PCM, so the PCM is basically in a immobilizer state, which it was not before. So that's the issue why it was a start and stall. It was a security stall. So now the problem is over. The car is running, as you can see. So it's going to be questioned. The customer just wants to bypass the cable so we can see any possible, visible damage. So I'm going to go ahead and just run a cable then from the fuse box to the PCM, and then also a fused cable from the battery to the PCM that's broken from down here, the 10 amp. It's running. Let me let the battery charge up a bit and start running these replacement wires, and we'll be back. So what's the moral of the story, guys? Don't be like the auto electric fool. Always, my first gut was to go over there and I disassembled one. If you saw part one, I disassembled this to go and check the powers and grounds to this PCM. But then that's when it clicked on me about the immobilizer light and all of this. So I was like, maybe there's something going on with the immobilizer. And then that's why I saw the errors in the SKIM, or not communicating, not seeing the key, all this thing. So then I'm like, whoa, I think here's the problem. So I kind of bypassed that first step I should have done, and in the end it led me all the way back to this. Being I did not know that there was a model like this that had the immobilizer from the factory completely disabled pretty much, and that's why there is no light on this cluster, right? If you saw the earlier part of this. So keep in mind, there are some models when that light never comes on whatsoever. This vehicle basically does not have that system. So right now it does, except I would have to enable it in the cluster to get the light on. But now the PCM is synced with the new immobilizer and the new key. By the way, here is the front control module, guys. That's where it's at. That's what it looks like. You can see the connector right there. All right. right, we got a watertight seal with this heat shrink. Check out my video on automotive wiring and splicing latest vehicles. Okay, I went ahead and tried to sync the original immobilizer back with the PCM and where it would transfer the secret key, which there isn't one because there is no, this system is basically disabled on this truck. And still the same thing. You'll get a crank, start, install. So that is because now the PCM is SKIM enabled. So the only way then to bring that back would be to reflash the PCM, or I could edit it, put it on with my CDA6 and disable the SKIM now in the PCM. So if in case you ever do something like this, that's what's going on. Just a quick note, guys. But once the SKIM is disabled in the PCM, this car will just start and work just fine. Note, guys, the A at the FCC ID, if you have that A at the back, this exact SKIM, the A would designate that this is SKIM enabled, and the B, which is the default for this vehicle, SKIM disabled, and that's why we have no red security light. So that's the difference in these two SKIMs right here. All right, assembling everything back. Now we got to put this and the blades back, and as you can see, we've got our power feed fused to the PCM. Okay, the customer opted to have security and wanted us to make a new key. So as you can see, that was the new key inserted, and we cut another key and we're gonna program it. I just went ahead and did it on my phone. I didn't feel like pulling out the IM608. And as you can see, it's the same steps. We're gonna put in the PIN number. We did. It's gonna ask for if you're sure. Yes, and you just pretty much follow the steps. The exact same thing like I did the last time. It starts programming, and then the key will be pretty much done, as you can see here. All right, so now we're done. That key is programmed, so crank, start, and it's running. Now we're going to test the second key that we just programmed. So now the customer has two keys. Put this one down. That's the second key, and there it is, boys. This one was programmed the second key with my phone, and this one is ready to go.